Good afternoon. The time is now 5:10. Apologies, I'm a little bit late, Gary. So tonight, this afternoon, I'm gonna switch you over. We've got sunshine up here in Scotland, and we're gonna introduce you now to Gary Stangoe. How are you?
I'm good, Martin. How are you?
I'm really good. We've got sunshine in Scotland, which is happens once a year, actually. So
Well, it's freezing down
is
here.
it?
It's been amazing. We had 23 degrees down in Berkshire a couple of days this
That's
week,
right.
and
Monday.
yeah, yeah, golf returned on the Monday, and we had 23 degrees, I think, for 3 days.
Do,
Amazing,
do you
and
get to play a lot of
it's
golf? You're obviously involved with the running of a club, but do you play yourself much? Do you get to play?
I don't play so much now.
Don't
I
you?
play occasionally, and my first game back, I played 9 holes on our new layout of a new golf club down here on Thursday morning,
Did
and
you?
I was appalling.
Was that?
So I don't, I don't play it up. But generally during the summer, I'll start playing a bit. I play an awful lot with the other golf club managers. That's probably more my golf to really
Yeah,
play
I
with
was going to say,
managers.
is it one of them things where I think when I was involved in golf, if you were on the golf course, then people would cross the fairways to talk to you, to
Right?
complain about something of whatever it was.
That's exactly it, and it'll never change. And it's quite. I live on the
Do
course, so
you?
I live on where I work. So I manage a golf club, live on site. The last 2 years I've been managing two clubs. So yeah, so yeah, it's very hard to escape it. But there's so many more pluses to this to working in this industry that if you get bothered a bit by somebody moaning about no sand in a bunker or something,
I
it's
think it is. I think a lot of
um,
people would say, Gary, that you live in the dream. Working on a golf course,
uh,
people in a normal kind of commercial life would. I know I'm not just glamorizing it, but people in the traditional corporate world would say, "God, I'd love to work on a golf course, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they?"
I, I don't. I absolutely don't take it for credit. It's a lot of hours, and at times there's quite a lot of
Is it?
sacrifices from it, but it's an amazing industry to work in. I mean, interestingly, I was coaching badminton literally full time when the chance came for me to move into
Really?
golf management, and I met with Dan Travers in Glasgow at the badminton union, and I said to him I got the chance to work in golf, and which was quite unusual at the time. Golf management was probably more for retired bank managers or somebody coming out of the army than I guess I was mid 30s at
Yeah.
the time, or early 30s when I moved into it, and I had the opportunity to do it. But it's changed now. There's a lot younger people in it. They're going into training early on. So, but it is. I mean, I've had some amazing experiences and continue to because
No,
of
it's
it. So,
fascinating.
yeah.
Let's go into badminton. Let's go with the questions. Here we go. So, your full name, Gary?
Is Gary Collins Stangle?
Where did the Colin come from? Do you know?
I have
Hmm.
absolutely no idea.
It's funny. I don't know if you heard the conversation there with Barry Rebus, which is what I'll call him from now on.
Rebus.
Rebus, that's what he's going to get called, Barry, all the time. Is that he didn't know where his middle name come from, and he asked his dad, and he found out. How good is that? And that was just for me asking the questions. He actually went and said, "Dad, where did my name actually come from?"
Right. Listen, I've got to phone my mother
Yeah,
later on,
ask
so
that
I will
question.
ask her.
Why, Colin? There we are. And your age, Gary?
54.
54. And where are you from? Where was home? I can't remember. Kevin obviously told me.
So home was Edinburgh. Obviously he
Yes,
spoke to
of
my brother,
course.
so Edinburgh was the really, and then I moved out to West Lothian before moving down to England in '97. So I had a short spell, or '98. I had a short spell back up in Scotland for about 2 years,
Right.
a year and a half. But other than that, I've been down
So were you
in
coached with
Englandshire.
Douglas Walker?
So yeah, yeah. I mean, we follow the Douglas was the
Yes.
Firhill High School. Douglas's mixed partner was a lady called Elma
Yes.
Christie, and she was the headmistress of the primary school. So, because my brother had gone
Yes.
before me, and as a player by that time he was, I think, certainly Lothians, if not Scotland squads, he, I literally didn't get a choice. I got pulled out of class and told I was joining the badminton club. Um, and then I kind of fast tracked. I was up in the high school, even though I was still in primary school, playing with some of the high school players with Douglas, and Douglas then took me through. So
we'll come to that. Good, brothers. Is it just you and Kevin?
Just Kevin.
What is the difference? Is there?
It's 3.5 years, I think.
Younger?
Older. Hey, I'll forgive you for asking that.
3 years older. So was he? Was he your inspiration to start playing badminton?
Possibly an inspiration. I mean, it was.
Did your parents play?
I guess my mum played. So my mum went to Douglas Walker's night school, and played a bit. So she went, and she was probably better than most of the other night school players. It was just a kind of go along and learn to play. But she never really, I don't think, played club badminton. My dad had played a bit more badminton down in Stranraer, but he was a golf professional. So he was professional at like Craig Miller and Moncton Hall. But he had played a bit. So they had played, and we used to kind of have a hit occasionally in the garden, but nothing, for me it was primary 6. Teacher came round and said, like, we're going to start a badminton club, and by the way, you're going. Who else in your class is coming? So.
And what age was that? Primary 6. What are you? Then 9, is it, something like that?
No, I would say 10. 10.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's so at the time, I suppose Kevin's getting rallied around from coaching and one place or another, tournaments and all that kind of stuff, and you were kind of watching this going on, and you kind of go along watching with them, I suppose.
I tend to be. I don't remember going too much during the course of the day, but I remember getting bundled in a car and driven down to Galashiels, in the Borders. So getting driven down to Galashiels late at night to pick him up from the end of a tournament. So I kind of that was probably my first introduction to it, and being in that environment.
And he was obviously wanting to play all the time at that time, and just getting the mentality. I was just talking to Barry there about golf and the kind of affinity with golf and badminton. I think people that love badminton and love golf are similar in that they obsess about something. They get it into your head and you want to get better, and you're not the kind of a fleeting hobbyist. I think badminton and golf are quite similar in that when you're in it, my God, you're in it. You're just constantly thinking, why did I do that? Or why did I do that? Or why did I do that? And I think there's a lot of similarities between golf and badminton like that. And he's obviously taken to being obsessed with badminton, and you've obviously you probably got that from your dad in golf, I suppose. I guess your dad as a golfer was always away playing golf, right?
I bet he was always working. He was a proper kind of club pro and working all the time. I mean, you're touching on golf there. So when we played badminton, sorry to skip forward, but when we played Edinburgh schools level, there was 4 of us that played quite a lot. One was outside Edinburgh. It was in Musselburgh. So Colin McLeod, Alan Murdoch, who I played my first final, who beat me in a tournament. Alan Hogg, who played a lot of badminton, and again in the early schools ages. Now, those guys all work in golf full time. So Alan Hogg over at Kings Barnes was director of golf at Kings Barnes, certainly last time I'd heard, and Alan Murdoch's at Kings Acre. So he's involved in the setup there and runs Kings Acre. Colin McLeod was involved at Carnoustie and the operations at Carnoustie. And then obviously myself. And we were all at the same time, same age group, playing badminton, and we all ended up working in golf. And then just after that, a couple of years younger than me, Katrina Lambert is Katrina Matthew, Solheim Cup captain, who was also a very good badminton player.
Why is there a similarity? Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I actually see it as different because I had a period when I stopped playing badminton and played golf competitively at a reasonable level for a while. I found it quite hard because golf, you can go out and you can have your best game and you could end up 6 shots behind somebody, or you can go out and play terrible and win. That's what happened. In badminton, it's one-on-one. Generally, when you walk on a court, most of the time you would feel if you're at the top of the sport, you feel like you've got an advantage over somebody else, and be confident of winning, and you have that control. Until you get to a kind of very level pegging one, then it's very. Whereas golf, there could be 50 guys, 100 guys turn up, and if they have their day, they can beat you. They can all beat you. Whereas in a kind of one-on-one sport, badminton or tennis, it's far more kind of niche as to who's gonna be the victor.
I'm sorry. I'm just had a picture sent through from Gary from Barry of a picture of you and him. Can you see that?
So yeah. So that's when I was invited as a player. I'll use that in inverted commas to take the primary schools course at Inverclyde. So So Barry was a phenomenal talent that was on that course. Bruce Flockett, who you interviewed, obviously, who went on to become great. Bruce wasn't one of the better juniors. He was obviously very keen. His parents had played. But Barry was there. He was one of the better ones. And then I think Alexis Blanchflower and Nicola Brown were on that. One of the other lads, I can't remember, who was on the course. There was quite a lot of them that went on to do really well and play for Scotland and things that were all on that same course. So
Inverclyde was a thing, wasn't it?
Oh, huge, massive. And I know for a lot of people that watch these videos, and that's why it comes out. I mean, I went for under 12, and what was good from that point of view, you were suddenly, at times when you were at Inverclyde, your kind of heroes were there as well. So, we were there as juniors under 12 and 14, and then you'd have Dan Travers would be there, or Billy Gillen would be there, and you'd be sitting in the cafe, and so you're actually mixing with your sporting heroes when you were quite young. So it had a really big influence. But we also, we had a great laugh and probably did a lot of growing up there.
When did you start coaching? How did that come in from playing? When did you decide you're going to be involved in coaching?
Well, funnily enough, you were just talking about this with Barry, and you said something about if something happened in your locality. So I had, and again, glandular fever comes out. So I had stopped playing after under 18s. I had done well under 18s, and I'd done quite well just at the very, very start of kind of coming out of juniors and seniors, and then something happened, and I decided to quit for a little while.
Right.
So 18. So I quit for a few months, then realised I was being stupid, started playing again and got glandular fever immediately, and that was me. I had it in my system for sort of 2 or 3 years, and although I played a bit after that, I didn't, I never got to back anywhere close to I guess where we had been. But anyway, in that time, Craig Robertson, who you also interviewed, had started playing a bit, and he got to the age where he was working and was trying to play badminton. Heard that I had moved out to Livingston, so he contacted me and said, would I kind of do some training with him? So I did a little bit with Craig, not huge amounts, but just helped him train, and it was nice to help. Anyway, I then started playing golf competitively and was doing, again, okay at that. And Craig phoned me up out of the blue. By this time, he would probably be mid-20s. Early 20s, mid-20s, and he was doing pretty well. And he said to me, have you got any spare time? He said, there's 2 kids that are really good. And he said, I can't devote any time to helping them. He said, could you come and have a look? And I turned up at a school to see one of them in West Lothian. His name was Brian Sutherland, and he was about 13 or 14. And I had never, as a badminton player, had been, a good junior. I'd never seen somebody as athletic as what he was. He wasn't the best with a racket in his hand. He was very good. He was strong, and he was really good. And then the opposite with the girl. Not that Catherine was athletic, but the girl Catherine Graham, she was magnificent with a racket. Again, very very skilled with the racket. And they both lived in Fauldhouse, and you were talking. I mean, if you remember from Craig's interview, you were talking about Hamish Miller and the school, and I went along to help them, and again, Hamish was more than happy that
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So I then used to sort of take them, and they were fabulous. And then we had quite a lot of success very quickly. Or they, in terms of, I suddenly was working with them quite a lot, and they did quite well above
Yes.
their age groups. And then I got invited in to kind of help with the Scottish junior squad.
And what age were you then?
And although I late 20s, maybe
Yeah,
about
yeah,
30
yeah.
then. But then I kind of coached quite a bit, and then Craig and I ended
What were
up
you doing
doing
for
quite a lot of
work,
coaching. We
Gary?
used to
Apart from that, what were you doing for work between?
at the time
Oh
mainly
yeah,
sales. I
oh
was
yeah.
doing various sort of sales. Yeah, I used to sell cycle
Oh
equipment and
really?
cycle bits and pieces, and travel around
Bike
Scotland, north of
shops.
England, and stuff. So yeah. So I had a bit, and then I ended up. I used to spend quite a bit of time up north. So there was three sisters that were very good, all played for Scotland juniors, and so when I was up there, I got there and stay with them, and take the three of
Did
them and
you?
do some coaching with them, and then do some stuff for the Scottish juniors. So
Yeah.
yeah, listen, I want to swap a lot of what I've had to do and the experiences for anything, because it's been great, but also there's been downsides. One of your other interviews with Peter
Yes.
Hardy from the Borders. So I've used this example an awful lot in my life, talking about one of the hardest decisions I had to make, and then Peter's on camera
Really?
talking about it. And it obviously affected him because we didn't select him for a big
Yes.
event, and yeah, and I had to message him afterwards, because it's always bothered me, because it was one of these things where you kind of knew if you didn't pick him, perhaps he's international, okay, junior international. But I guess what was harder for him is that his own individual coach was one of the selectors.
Yes.
And for him, I mean, that was awful. We had him, in the Coburn Centre, we had a meeting. And I won't forget Alistair Morgan actually taking it really, he sat there and he knew what he was doing, but he also knew that we kind of had to pick these other kids. And so, yeah, as I said to you off camera there, it's a bit like therapy,
Yeah,
this. So,
absolutely. You go.
so
It's a process of going through things. And why did that happen? And that's how it started, really, for me. You just ask you questions, and that's what I was talking to somebody about. The COVID situation's obviously horrendous, but what time. I think I don't know what you think, but I think time is a luxury. I sell myself, and I deal with people who I don't have time to look at that now. I don't have time to look at that now. I don't have time. When do you have a time to stop and reflect on your life and things that have affected you and things that you've done and things that were good and things that were bad? And normally in day-to-day life, you just fly along. You just fly along. You don't have time to analyze yourself. You don't have time to think about things that you've done or why you did them or how it could have been better or why you did this or why you did that. So that's a one good thing is you actually have time. I don't know. I just think in day-to-day life, generally you don't have time for thinking about things, and that's how this started. Really, it's just analysis of things.
yeah, yeah, but for me, it's these videos that have stopped. Have suddenly generated the time to
I
sit and
know.
reflect, because I had Julie Hogg was on now for various reasons. I was really good friends with Julie and her sister, and then Russell, her late husband, I
Did
played
you?
doubles with for a while. So you've got things come up there, and you think, God, I should have been in touch more. Or I didn't do this, or
Yeah.
didn't do that, and then Alan McMillan was, and you talk about people that you wanted to beat
Yeah.
and aspire to. Alan and I were kind of, I guess, rivals for age groups. He
Was
was
he?
a year younger than me and came and knocked me off my perch. I did get that perch
It's
back
good.
for a little while. But we then travelled across Europe together, and you had a lot of memories from there. And, a number, Brian Thompson as well was an interesting one, because I listened to Brian's interview intently, because Brian was always kind of around as a periphery at the clubs, so we played
Yeah.
some club stuff. But I thought he was being quite hard on himself, because I always remember as being a really,
Yeah.
really good player. And my memories of Brian was that he was playing county stuff and was slightly higher a standard than he was giving
Really.
himself credit for. But he was a really good guy. I always remember Brian, when we did go to club matches and stuff. But yeah, no, it's been so yeah. In terms of reflection, your
Yeah.
videos have
No.
kind of
Thank you.
generated
That's the
a lot of
idea.
imagery.
Okay. Let's get back to the questions. Why and where did you start playing? I've got that. Your first ever racket.
So it's already been mentioned was my brother's racket because that got passed down to me. So it was a 3.9 that got passed down, and then immediately, not long after that, and I said my parents bought me a Carlton 3.7S.
That's the X.
No, there's a story here. So it was an S,
Right.
okay, and then so they bought me that, and I took it to Meadowbank probably a couple of weeks into having it, and I was hitting a shuttle up against the wall, and I hit a table, and I bent the head completely, and I was mortified. So they promised to replace it. I don't know why, because it was my fault. But and then they went out and got me 3.7X. So that's
I think there was a
3.8S,
which has what I remember. My brother had that, and it was a red head and had a black shaft, and it was a graphite shaft but a metal head. That's a 3.8S. I remember that one as well.
That was one of the. That was one of the first. Yeah. But I mean, I was lucky because after that it was always kind of terms or contracted stuff that I had.
Sponsored and all that kind of stuff. Coaches seem to do quite well out of getting sponsored, don't they? Because obviously they have a lot of players run through their fingers, don't they? You know, they can influence, you know, what kids like or whatever else. It's. I don't know if you watched Eddie O'Neill. Did you watch that?
I saw bits of it. Interestingly, I saw Eddie's. Like there was a huge amount of people watched Eddie's one. And then it must be reflective of his character.
But what he was talking about was he came over from Glasgow over to North Berwick, and he just thought, I'm going to send a letter to Yonex and say, any chance you could give me a racket or something like that? I'm a coach, any chance you give me a racket? And he just said he hadn't said in his interview, huge box arrived from Yonex. He was expecting a letter, and there's this huge box of dozens of rackets and shoes and tracksuits and t-shirts, and he says, I couldn't believe it. He just opened this box and it was all that. I don't know if that still happens now, mind.
Well, the funniest thing is it used to happen with players, so the players were always looked after great. We were talking about this on the Badminton Memories call the other night. I had a phenomenal contract when I was like 15, 16. I mean, I used to get something like, I think I had 6 rackets. That was a Slasnia contract. I used to get 6 rackets, 8 shirts, 4 pairs of shorts, 8 pairs of socks, and then I had an Adidas shoe contract as well. And then. Just when I was about 18 and starting to, just as I've gone to the seniors, they pulled back in the contracts. So cut forward a few years and became a coach. That was when they decided to give the stuff out to coaches. So that was like win-win. I used to get it as a player and I got it as a coach. So
comment here from Kevin that says the 3.7X is in my garage.
So there you go.
There we go. Nice one, Kevin. Good.
It won't be the 3.7S because it's got a bent head somewhere.
What was the name of the first club you went to?
So in terms of like an adult club, I mean, I was in the Firhill Junior Badminton Club, so as a lot of people were, but I was a Nomads player. I went because Kevin was Nomads and Dougie was Nomads. So again, I didn't get a choice. Dougie just tell me to get in the car and we went, you know, at the time coaches were allowed to drive players somewhere, but we went to
where did
Nomads.
They used to play? I play there now. Where did they used to play?
So I'm trying to remember where we started. I remember they moved out to the Jack Kane Centre out at Craigmillar, but we played somewhere else before that.
We play at St George's School now. The St George's School for Girls at Roseburn is where we play now.
Played there for quite a while, though, haven't they?
Great school. It's a great hall, actually. So I play at the club there on a Tuesday and a Thursday, actually. North Morningside is Tuesday and Nomads is Thursday. It's really good, actually. It's
Well, I'd be lying if I said that we played a bit of club stuff. I just enjoyed it. We had a really good club, but we were at the point where the sport was moving away from the clubs more into you know your training schedules. So, excuse me, we had they just appointed Alan Carr was 13, and they just appointed Alan Campbell as the first kind of full-time national coach. Before that, you'll have heard Roger Mills talked about. So Roger had been, I think he was on like 100.
Sorry.
Scottish Badminton, and then
sorry, that was
some
me,
weird just happened on my screen now. and then Alan Campbell was appointed, and badminton was just becoming, so Billy and Dan were suddenly becoming on TV, and they were becoming, and everything started to become a bit more serious, and there was more emphasis on us, training more than doing clubs, and I would certainly say it was probably around then where. And not long after, they started to separate a little bit. People started in the clubs, but there was more emphasis on the players starting to do a bit more training.
Because, of course, they're playing all day, right? They're getting coached all day. They're playing all day long. And then when they get home at night, they don't want to be going to a club, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, well, we, again, as juniors, probably our national junior squad at the time, there was a couple of us left and were playing badminton full-time. And I use that term loosely. I mean, we were just playing at it. We thought we were full-time players, but we weren't, training as the modern players were. But that's what we were doing. We were climbing the dole, right, stringing rackets, and playing badminton quite a lot, whereas, and then when I left Scotland in 97 and 98, that was round about the time the lottery money was coming in. I mean, it really took a big jump then in terms of seriousness. But certainly, I would say mid to late 80s, as the sport became a bit more higher profile in Scotland, and we had Billy and Dan being successful, and I think the players then probably stopped playing quite as much club stuff.
Most people were just they were just basically living at home, and there wasn't enough income. It was just really just making only just enough money, staying with your parents. They continued to work. And you just clean the dole, and it's like pocket money, and that's the idea, right?
Yeah, no. We were. I mean, at the time, again, mid 80s, Scottish badminton seemed to have, and this is for other people to talk about offline, but it seemed to have more funds and more money. So we went to an awful lot of events. We were funded quite well. We would travel to a lot of things. And yeah, I mean, it was spectacular at that time. And then when I was coaching,
you're living financially. How do you live, Gary, with that? Is it hand to mouth? You're very much thinking, I can't afford it, or did that come into it? Did you have things where you thought, I can't go and do that because I can't afford it at the moment, or
yeah, but I was only 17, 18. I mean, my parents were still.
You're a kid, of course.
Paying for me to live at home.
Just like all your friends at university are living like students anyway, right? Same thing, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah. I mean, so the Allen sisters, Jenny and Eleanor, who we grew up with, they were working full time. They worked for Standard Life. I think a lot of the players tried to find jobs that gave them a bit of flexibility, where the companies maybe
yes, that's right.
Appreciated sport and excellence. And allowed them to do the training out.
Jim Mailer had that. I don't know if you watched Jim Mailer. He had a thing he was with, I can't remember who it was. It's in outside Stirling. I can't remember who it is. Big company. Principal and Prosper, is it? Something like, I can't remember. Scottish Equitable, I think he worked at Scottish Equitable, which are just outside Stirling, and he had flexibility in that kind of working life where he could say, okay, I'm going to finish early, I'm going to start late. I think it was flexi time or something, I think he said.
Yeah. Well, I was still playing when I got my first kind of real job. So I eventually the door caught up with me and said, "You've not applied for a job in 10 months. You need to go." So I got sent on the old YTS scheme, and I went to work for the Scottish Sports Council.
Cool. That's quite cool.
Again, so that was good. That was great, and met some fascinating people, and they allowed me to take as much time off as I needed for my badminton. But then that came to an end. So I went to work for the civil service, which again was flexi time, and so I'd jump on a bus from Gorgie Road, head down to Meadowbank, and go and play there. But maybe the other big thing that was a difference at the time is that we got all the players in the mid 80s, and a lot of those players played international badminton for a long time at senior level. We had scholarships from Edinburgh City Council, so we got free courts at Meadowbank all the time. And then and again later on they withdrew that, but we lived at Meadowbank because we had free badminton courts. That was unique, and then we get a grant as well towards our expenses.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, back to the questions. Shuttles you use, first of all.
Well,
Saves
yeah,
everybody, isn't
again,
it? Plastic and bit of feathers.
you were playing plastics and a bit of feathers, and there's been a lot of talk about the Perth
Yes.
badminton scene.
Mhm.
And I used to spend a lot of time and go up there and live with a family at McDonald's. In fact, Barry mentioned Fraser
Yes.
McDonald. His mother worked for a company that used to import from China, and they used to bring in
Really?
feather shuttles. I think it'd be somebody else's. We tell you that they were CG, they were feather shuttles, so they were like
Yes,
cheaper
that's
brand
right.
feathers. So I used to buy stacks of them, and we used to practice with them. They were a lot cheaper than your RSLs and your junior tourneys, and I don't know what their business was, but they were importing these feather shuttles.
I bought a tube of shuttles from eBay, and this guy was Yannick. I ran a club, and I started a summer club a few years ago, and I was trying to find shuttles and AS30s. You always think that there's so much money. There must be so much money in shuttles. You think, and I don't think there is any money in shuttles because everybody's around the same price. They're all about 20 quid a dozen now. And this guy was selling them for like 13 quid. Yonex AS30s for 13 quid. And you know when they say something's too good to be true. Well, sure enough, they arrived. I'm thinking, and I had the two of them side by side, and I was hitting them and all that kind of stuff. But it's the world as it is now. You can't trust anything. You know, they were truly terrible.
No,
You feel the weight of them. And it's not right. And this, yes, so you'd buy things. You know what it's like. You buy something on the internet, and it arrives. And you're like, oh, what did I do that for? Kind of thing. My favorite shots now are Li Ning. There's a Li Ning make great records called
right?
shuttles called AS90s, which are tops. They're my favorite. They last for ages. So I was involved in blind shots, and we were going through in a club 5 tubes a week in shuttles. £100 a
Oh,
night in shuttles we were going through. It's absolutely crazy, and trying to sustain it, and you think, oh God. And plus luckily the hall at St George's was relatively cheap, but yes, shuttles are really. You spend 5 tubes of shuttles on a club night. 25 people going, and they were just killing shuttles. Every two rallies. It was like on the YouTube. It was like you'd find on the telly. It was the way and it's if one feather goes, nope, get rid of it, get another one. Unreal.
so who's covering the cost of them then? I
Then
mean, is part of your membership fee,
it
or
was
is
just
that
nightly, so
do
I
you
did
pay
it.
in
I
the
did
play?
it on maths. I did it on kind of. I just said, right, okay, the whole cost. I think the hall was at 80 quid for the night, which is cheap for the whole hall, right? It wasn't by court. You could pay the whole
Yeah,
hall, which was really really good. And then so you'd have 5 courts between the hours of 8 and 10 o'clock at night, and then so you just did the maths and divide it up, and the more people that went, the less it would be. And sometimes you'd get a little bit extra. So you charge. I don't know if 25 people turn up and you charge a tenner. I guess that's 240 quid, 80 quid for the hall, 100 quid for shuttles, and you've got a little balance of 60 quid. And then the next week, only however many people turn up because it's whatever, and it works like that, and it just gradually kind of works itself out eventually. When you start looking at the difference, I started looking at it and thinking, maybe it doesn't need to be 9, maybe it could be £8.50, and you think, who wants to come and pay £8.50 instead of 9 quid? What difference does it make to people? So yeah, I enjoy running club. I enjoy running club, and I enjoy the social side of it, and just you start getting, and I mean that's how all of this starts really, because I've just got a network of badminton players, right? So if I said I'm running a badminton club on Thursday night, is anybody want to come? And you've got a group of 100 people in your messenger that you send that out to. Somebody says, "Oh, I'll come," and then somebody goes, "God, he's good, I'll come. God, he's good, I'll come. God, he's good," and that's how it works. And even if a little bit of a trade
yeah.
secret, even if you say somebody's going to come and then you know they're not, I would invite everybody, the best I possibly knew, and then before you knew, I would say, "Oh, also we've got such and such coming along," and then everybody would say, "If they're coming, I'm in." Before you knew it, and then of course they all turned up on the night and they didn't show up. So I might come along. People would say, just like, I might come along. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
no, it was good anyway. It's just good cracking. But the club, I really enjoy running the club, and yeah, I'm not very good, but I enjoy getting people together and watching them love it. I love seeing people play and seeing a group of people come, and I think, God, he's really good. There's a few in Edinburgh I think, yeah, they're really good, and I think I would
Right.
love to see them playing against each other. You can start mimicking a game in your head, like a football manager idea, thinking, what I'd love to see him and him against him and him, or whatever it is. And I love throwing people together like that. and I get a chance to do that, right? People, I know that people are going to come and say, right, okay, you're on, you boys, you're on, because it's quite good to see a game, right? It's quite good. Quite like it.
But it was always a
Yeah,
great
it
club,
is, and it
Nomads.
still gets Nomads and North Morningside. It's the same hall. Nomads has had the luxury of running earlier, so it's I think it's 7 till 10 actually they run. So people just go straight from work and they cycle out or whatever. And yeah, and there's for a while I was running a singles club for the first hour because I think I had it actually from technically from 6. So it was like a 6 hours go straight from work. 6 o'clock I'd be there. And I decided, right, it's a really good idea to start up a singles club between 6 and 7, and then from 7 till 9 or whatever it was going to be doubles. Honestly, an hour of singles before at my age, an hour of singles before a club. By 9 o'clock, I was absolutely blown. I was going home. I played singles for like 40 minutes, and I'm absolutely goosed. And I'm leaving the club at night. People say, "Where are you going?" It's like, "Oh, are you joking? I've just had three games of singles. Kills me." Did you play singles?
Yeah.
What was your thing?
So I played. Yeah, no. I played all. I kind of went in fits and starts, to be honest. I am. We're talking about Alan McMillan. So, when I was about 15, 16, I'd been the kind of number one junior for my age through, and then Alan suddenly appeared and beat me probably a couple of times, and then I'd beat him, but it kind of knocked me. So I then declared myself, I guess, to be a bit more of a double specialist for a year or two. And then I went back and then beat Alan, and I guess in the final, the under 18 Scottish. But so fits and start. It probably went with weight as well, 15, 16, not trying hard enough. I lost quite a bit of weight. I just remember, and not deliberately, over one summer holiday, probably about that time. 17 or 16, 17, I don't know how or why. I just remember turning up. We always used to take a break, and I turned up to training. A couple of people said, "You've lost a lot of weight," and it kind of coincided, and I suddenly started to play a bit better, and my singles form got a bit better. So strange how you kind of remember these things.
Who's your doubles partner when you went and played doubles for that time? At that time, did you have a?
It varied. It kind of, and again, talking to the therapy side of things. When you're a junior, there was a couple of times where I was taken aside and told that I was going to have to change my partner because the Scottish electors were going to pick somebody else, and they wanted me to start to play in practice with, and so that I had to say to someone
that. How awkward is that?
Awful, because it becomes slightly personal, and I remember it kind of happened a couple of times when I was about 17, 18, where we'd gone through the European juniors, and then my final year. The European Juniors at the time was every 2 years. My year was then an under 18 year, and I'd played with the same guy up until through under 16, under 17 years, and then he became a senior. So I had to then find another partner. So there was a couple of, I guess, my pals that I played some tournaments with. But then I was sort of taken aside, and the late Russell Hogg, I was told, look, you've got to play with Russell, even though he was 2 years younger. We're going to pick you to play with him. And then again, the knock-on effect from that is Russell had a long-term partner as a junior, and Russell had to say to him, that was David Cunningham, look, I'm playing with Gary in these older tournaments. So it becomes a little bit mercenary, I guess.
I think especially because it's such I mean, I imagine I wasn't really involved in that, but it was such a car sharing. You're living together. You're like family, right? You're getting you're staying in hotels. You're in minibuses going down the M6. You're literally living with each other. And the idea that someone's going on in the background, there's no easy way to do it, is it? And that was up to you to say that I'm going to be playing with such and such, or would they be pulled by somebody else?
No. It was almost, you kind of had to say, as I remember, that I'm not playing with you in the whatever, the Grangemouth Junior or something like that. And you look back on it, you get past it, and I'm still friends with some of those guys. But you do look back and you think, I mean, probably there's people, anybody who does watch this probably say, well, he didn't care. He was quite ignorant anyway. He's quite self-centered, and maybe there was a bit, but
it's one of those things you've got to deal with. How you process something like that.
Well, if you're going to be playing in an international match, and you know that you're going to be playing with, like, as I was, Russell, and we did really well together. I've got to say, it was probably the right choice. We did really well together, but you've got to do it, and it does. These sort of things go on behind it, and maybe at the time you don't see it so much, but there's certainly a lot of me, you look back and you think, God, that happened, that probably wasn't right, or that shouldn't have happened.
Especially because you're a kid, right? You're a kid. You're a kid. You look at kids now. Look at my son's 19 now. I mean, the idea of someone like that having to happen, you think, you're going to have to tell him, what? Are you serious? It's hard.
No, it is hard. It's and you're young. I mean, you do grow up with this. We spent a huge amount of time. We were lucky in Edinburgh. We had a phenomenal squad, and a lot of those guys went on to play senior badminton for Scotland for many years. I didn't, but they were really great. But we all grew up together. We learned an awful lot from the ages of 13 to 18 together. So it's hard when these things happen.
Your coach was Douglas Walker.
He was the first coach, and then really, Elmer started us off, but it was Douglas Walker, and then I moved on to John Williamson. And again, that was I was a Scottish Badminton Union decision where I was called up and said, look, we want you to move to John. John had just started emerging as a coaching talent, and myself and Kenny Middlemas, and Hudson, we all started working as a little cell. They had these cell coaches, and I started working with John. Which again was John suddenly brought new ideas and was a very good influence on me. He kind of got me focused again a little better when I'd lost my way a little bit. So at 15, I was still playing international junior stuff, but he was a great influence on me.
Your first ever tournament and trophy?
So I lost in the final of the Christmas tournament at Meadowbank to the guy I mentioned earlier, the golfer Alan Murdoch, and I won an alarm clock, a little alarm clock with a red case. I'll never forget it. I was so proud of it. That was my runner's up. I wasn't seeded to get to the final, but I lost Alan, and that was my
an alarm clock.
Was that saying? It might still be in my mother's house.
That's in Galvalia.
Yeah, something like that. But that was my prize.
You're a singles player predominantly. Was it singles you preferred?
Well, no, I all three. I mean, I probably did best at mixed and doubles outside of Scotland anyway.
And what was your game? What do you think your strength was when you played? There's a question for you. What do you think your strength was as a player that made you good, that made you win? What was different about you, I suppose?
I was very deceptive, but that helped me. That helped me finish the rallies quicker because I wasn't that fit. I think looking back at it, I certainly wasn't as physically. I didn't have the kind of aerobic stamina that probably I should have had. So I kind of played attacking and I played quite deceptive. So I was quite good and good around the net, I guess. That I would probably say. I mean, there'd be people who tell you completely the opposite, I guess, but that's my memory.
I think a lot of it now, when you watch it on YouTube, I think a lot of it now is like a workout. It feels like an endurance challenge to see who's going to be absolutely dying first. Frankly, it just seems like it looks like that. It looks like they are trained and the fittest ever, and they can return anything, but they never try and win. Really try and win. There must be a big psychological part of it, which is just about running the opponent down, absolutely wearing them down. Not necessarily, but as you say, I was the same. I would say I was the same. I had a lot of slices. Cross-court drop was always good, and it really was. And to be honest with you, you still see it now. You still see people that are really struggling, and they play an amazing shot. Then, and you hear the commentators saying, "Oh my God, what an amazing shot!" And realistically, those players are bust. They either win it or they're gonna die. So they just, they play your main competition growing up sounds like Callum McMillan.
Yeah, really. There was a lad called Drew Bryson, who was an incredible talent, and his sister Alison went on to be. She was a very good senior international player, and then became a coach. And Alison and I coached together. But when I was first younger, it was Drew Bryson. He was my big kind of rival, and then in Scotland, and then Alan McMillan, and really through until I finished playing properly. I would say Alan, and again, a funny thing with Alan was, I kind of resented him coming along and kind of beating me and beat the younger one. But I watched Alan. We were on an international trip together, and he got put in almost like fodder against the Danish team in a singles match that we knew we couldn't win, and our kind of number one player was rested, and he was phenomenal. I'll never forget it. He just went on, he did his stuff, and he played great against this top Danish player, and that's probably when my respect for him changed completely. It was I thought, bloody hell, he's really good. I'd probably give really good. So, but yeah, it was good. And we still.
Was there very much of an East and West thing going on back then?
Yeah, I would say you had coaches who were based in the West and Ayrshire a little bit, and then Edinburgh was a huge hub. I mean, we had phenomenal talent there. It was just a time, and whether that's related to that scholarship thing I was talking about, I don't know. But we had free courts. We were down there and we were training, and one seemed to bring on the other. Yeah. And what happens a lot with the kids is that the players that were kind of pretty good at 14 and 15, a lot of them, but they weren't the top, suddenly come through at 17 and 18 and suddenly go on and become very, very good. And the ones that were talented and went in when they're younger, maybe, don't make it. But we had a huge hub. And a lot of that was Dougie Walker. Yes. I mean, he opened up the school at Firhill on a Friday night, and we just played all the time. I mean, I used to play Dougie at lunchtime, every lunchtime, and never really kind of fully understand until later on how much of a commitment that he did. I mean, he was phenomenal to me and my brother and an awful lot of other people.
It's amazingly selfless.
I was the only one. Oh, hugely. I mean, because I was at the school, I had access. It felt like I had access to him every day. So it was phenomenal.
What were his kids?
Because he lived in Pennycook. Eric and
forget Emma.
So Emma, but they didn't go to Firhill. So certainly not when I was there. I don't think they went to Firhill. They lived in Pennycook. So they were later. They were a bit younger.
Okay. I don't know if you can answer questions about. Excuse me. About do you not play at all now, Gary?
There's a bit of joke going around because I've been since the clubhouse I've been shut in the golf club. I've turned one into half a badminton court, and so going in and do shadow badminton training, I've lost 2 stone and 3 pounds. So I hit the kind of 55 age coming up. So I'll maybe play a little bit of senior stuff.
I love shadow badminton. God, it's boring, isn't it? Hard work. It's hard work. 60 seconds of shadow badminton's hard work, right?
I never played a 60-second rally in my life, but
no.
I've been playing. I mean, the last sort of 15 years hardly been on court. I went to a club in Reading. I've got a Malaysian member who's a badminton fanatic at the golf club, who plays Berkshire senior stuff, and I went to his club 2 or 3 nights, and I hadn't been on court for 10 years, and I just thought it was I didn't know how good he was, and I turned up thinking this was just a small badminton club, and they were a Division 1 club, and I turned up, I think I was about 16 stone 3 at the time, and turned up to this club night, and I hadn't been on court, but I didn't lose a match that night. And I went away, and I was full of good intentions. But other than that...
Now you've been doing shadow badminton, so you can go back. That's why you've been doing that now. You've been doing that to go back to that club again, I reckon.
No, I don't. Maybe I need to. We'll see. I've been well aware of the kind of age group, and now we're back in touch with some of the older players. I mean, a lot of these guys are all playing vet stuff, and you might not have seen them for 15 or 20 years, but they're still your friends, they're still your pals, and we have a good bit of banter. So I feel like I missed out a little bit So we'll see if I could get a bit fit. I still need to lose a bit of timber.
This is all. I mean, like I say, this is all the silver line of COVID. Getting time to get in touch with people again, and your Badminton Memories have done a great job of getting everybody together, and it's all good, right? It's all good, isn't it? Yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
So that's fine. Do you have a racket now?
They're in my mini badminton hall next door, but there's a couple of Ashaways that I think are about 20 years old. So in fact, the last time we were on the Badminton Memories call, Dan was on there, and I need to send Dan a message and get a couple of Yellixes or something down. So
it's funny. Barry was just talking about his racket, didn't he? If you saw his racket, did you?
I did. I used to use them as well. Yeah, the Wilson ones with the funny
Weird,
heads. Yeah,
really weird. Big scoop at the top. Yeah, it's so funny.
They were good. There was a period where they were sponsoring the Danish team, I think. So quite a lot of Danish players were using Wilson.
I've been playing tennis, and obviously Wilson Pro Staff is all day long. That's what everybody uses. That's the best you can get, Wilson Pro Staff. I would never ever think about it for badminton, but yeah, for tennis, it's just the name, right? It's like Yonex. It's like Yonex. Wilson is the name, right, for tennis.
So talking about Wilson, through golf, I got to go to the Wilson Research and Development Center in Chicago. We went out to what's the USPGA at Whistling Straits, and we went into the R&D center, and they had all the tennis racket handles from all the stars, Serena Williams and Federer was, I don't know if he's still Wilson and stuff, and they had them all there. So and they had all the spec sheets of the tennis.
For Federer's racket, yeah. That's what I've got. It's Wilson. It's a Pro Staff 97. What do they call it again? AF something. AF. I always think yeah. It's yeah. I do enjoy tennis. Have you ever played?
I played a little bit. Again at school, bizarrely at Firhill High School, I was number one in Scotland for my age at badminton, and we had the number one tennis player, who actually was quite a good badminton player as well, Colin McGill and Michael McGill. They both went on to be Scottish tennis champions. It was bizarre. There was just a lot of talent for racket sports.
Fantastic. Have you got kids?
I got a son who's upstairs hiding away, a 14-year-old. So he lives in Norwich. He lives with his mother in Norwich, but he comes and stays with me a lot. He's down here for Easter.
Or a badminton player?
No, he's a movie fanatic. He played a little bit of badminton when he was younger, a little bit of sports, but sports are gone. He's doing okay at school, but he's an absolute movie fanatic, and that's his joy.
What superhero kind of things, or what kind of things?
Oh God, yeah.
Tell him to look at. My son's 19, and he's at Harriet Watt University, but he's a journalist. He got a job as a journalist. His English has always been very good, but he's technical. But he's got a job as a journalist for an American magazine, a new internet-based magazine called thedirect.com, and he's been writing from his flat. He's been writing like up to 10 articles a day. They assign him projects about movies, about gaming, and they just basically writes articles, and he gets paid 10 quid an article. He makes himself available, and he goes on and they send him work and said, do you want to write about this? And he'll write an article and post it. Has to do it within 20 minutes. Boom, there's an article. Boom, write it, send it. And he does the thumbnails and all that stuff for the all that. Very clever. Have a look. Thedirect.com. It's all about. It's mostly Marvel. That's the biggest.
Right. Well, on the superhero side, and again coming at Badminton Memories, Alistair Casey, who's ex-junior player, who's now chief of staff for USA Badminton, he's coaching Zack Snyder, who is the director, did all the Justice League stuff. He did the Wonder Woman. Yeah, and he's got him involved in USA Badminton, so he's an ambassador for USA Badminton.
He's
definitely.
He's a bang on for an interview. Well, interestingly, there is an American stuntman called Samuel Hargrave, and that's my son's called Samuel Hargrave, Hargrave, and there is an actual American superhero, like a stuntman called Sam Hargrave. And as soon as he got the job, I said, "Oh, is it the stuntman?" He's like, "No." So what a coincidence that is. It's quite an unusual name. So you're going to go back to badminton, you think?
We'll see. I mean, I
think you will.
My golf and project I've got is a lot. But we'll see. I certainly everybody's been on that call, and these calls that we do, it makes me a little bit think. Well, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it.
When I listened
So we'll
to Barry saying, my knees are busted, and I think you might have missed the last bit where he told us about. Did you hear the conversation about 5 years ago from Barry?
When he busted his Achilles tendon. Yeah. No, we were. It's a bit of a legendary story amongst the Badminton
players. He's recorded that, so I'll upload that onto YouTube as well. Both Achilles at the same time. Unbelievable, right? Good. And what? So okay, I'm going to finish with this question because that's an hour. Is it an hour? It is an hour. What is it about badminton you think about different? Why did you choose and like badminton? And also it's a question that I like to ask is there somebody that you'd attribute your love of badminton to individually, as well as why you love it? But is there somebody that you say, if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have?
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, that's Douglas Walker. There's no the influences that he had on me in the early days and the opportunities that he put my way in terms of training and practicing and whatever. That without a doubt, it was those opportunities early on. But the love of the sport is just. I mean, I wouldn't have swapped my teenage years for anything. It's a great sport. It always has been, for the camaraderie through it and the lifelong friends and you get that from everybody. All of your videos, everybody that you see, it's just been a phenomenal sport for that, and long may it continue. And I've had good times with it. I've helped a few people on my way as well. So no, it's just a great sport, and I don't know many other sports that are just quite like it.
Thank you very much, Gary. That's been awesome. Sunday afternoon, I'll let you go back to the sunshine. I can see your sun beaming through the window, just like it is my end. It's probably quite disappointing to go outside. It's probably freezing cold, but it looks blue where I am.
Well, I hope it's still Saturday, not Sunday. We've not been on that long.
Of course.
Martin, keep up the good work. Honestly, I said off camera, everybody really appreciates this. You're doing a great job with it. So.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't love that. It's quite selfish, really. Okay.
Thank you. Have a
great day. Thank you. Cheers, Gary.